What's going on, producers and songwriters? In this video, we're going to be talking about how to make chords and how to make chord progressions specifically for modern music producers and songwriters. And this is part one of a two-part series where we're going to be diving really deep into just that. And when I say diving really deep, this is exactly what I mean. Here's what we're going to be going over here in this video. What is a chord? Have you ever even thought about that? What a chord is in the first place? Number two, how to make a basic triad, which is your most basic chord. And then we're going to be talking about how to make seventh chords, which is the bridge into getting really fancy with it. Then we're going to talk about what makes chords important, what makes harmony important, what is the role of harmony in music, and why is it so important that we really need to know this and master this for modern music production and songwriting. And then we're going to be talking about the chord formula, or what I like to call the Songwriters Alphabet. And this right here is what all of these steps are leading up to, because once we have a solid mastery of the Songwriters Alphabet, this is all we need to, number one, learn any song we want to and be able to hear it and identify what's being played the second it's being played without having to guess at the piano. And number two, being able to hear a chord progression in your head and be able to play it on the fly without having to guess. Possible. This is the language of music. This is the language of harmony for modern music production. And we're also going to take a look at two songs so we can put this Songwriters Alphabet and everything we're learning today in context. So it's not just a bunch of theory and it's not just information that you're learning, but you can see how the information has been applied by some of the greatest artists of all time in context in their music, so you can do the same in yours. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is BruceBeats. I'm a multi-instrumentalist producer. I have credits with Major 7, Terrace Riley, Will Gittens, McDonald's, Netflix, Hulu, BET, Bravo, literally all over the place. And my goal with this channel is to help modern music producers be able to take the ideas in their head, play them on piano specifically for music production so we can keep leveling up the quality of music. Before we get started with our first pillar here, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button below. That way you can be notified when videos just like this drop, and it helps out the channel way more than you know. So thank you so much for subscribing. Let's get right into it. So what is a chord? Now, I'm laughing because some of you may be thinking, dude, seriously, what is a chord? If we have trouble defining what a chord is, how comfortable do you think we are going to be making a chord progression, which is a series of chords? So a chord progression can be 2 chords, it can be 4 chords, it can be 6 chords, it can be 8 chords long. But if we don't know and have mastery over just one chord and what it is, how can we expect to have mastery over a chord progression that consists of 8 chords and then be able to take things and move them around and try to really express our emotion in a chord progression if just a single chord is giving us problems? So what I want to do here is I want to start at the most basic level and build step by step, so that once we get to the progression, we understand the inner workings of everything. So I know this is not the answer you want to hear, but I will never lie to you. Chords come from scales. And I know everybody thinks of scales and it's like, oh, that's a really hard thing. It's actually not very hard at all. So if we take our C major scale, which is the most simple scale there is because it's all white keys. If we take that C major scale, put my thumb here on C, and then I just go up to the next C, just playing all white keys, that's a C major scale, okay? And that's ascending, and then I can bring that back down. Descending. And as a matter of fact, a lot of songs are created like simply from scales. Right? Joy to the World, it literally just walks down the scale. So we can see that even just knowing the scales, we can make some cool music, but let's go ahead and get back to the chords. So the most basic chord is called a triad, okay? And we need, and tri meaning 3, we need at least 3 notes to make a chord. If we just play one note, it's just one note. If we play 2 notes, we're just playing 2 notes. This is called an interval, okay? But as soon as we add that 3rd note, now we have a chord. Now we have something that expresses some sort of emotion, and that is what chords are for. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll dive deep into that. But 3 notes create a chord, okay? We need at least 3 notes to make a chord. And we have different chord qualities, okay? So there's 5 different chord qualities that we can mess with, and they're all 3 notes, okay? So we have our major chord, we have our minor chord, we have our diminished chord, we have an augmented chord, and we have a sus chord. This one, I consider it a chord quality. Some other people don't, I do because it's 3 notes and it's really its own vibe. A sus chord is really its own vibe, suspended chord. The point of this video is not really to dive into what those qualities are, but to really just understand that, notice that when I played all of these chord qualities, they were 3 notes. So every single chord that you ever play, at its core, at its most basic form, is going to be 3 notes. And those 3 notes are the first, the third, and the fifth of the scale. So for example, here in C major, when I do the first note, second note, third note, fourth note, fifth note, that's what it is, okay? Easy way to think about this is play one, skip one, play one, skip one, okay? Play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. Boom! That's exactly how you make a chord. So if I wanted to do a minor chord, well, I'll simply plug my minor scale in here. So if I take C minor, play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. Boom, I have my C minor chord. And I can do the same thing from any note. So if I take F, let's say I want to play F minor. Well, here's my F minor scale. Play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. There's my F minor. So that's what a chord is at its core. All the other notes that you've heard of, like the 7th, the 9th, the 11th, all of those things, those are simply decoration. What do I mean by this? Well, if I take my C major chord, this is a C major chord, this is a happy sounding chord, right? If I take my minor chord, this is my C minor chord. This is a sad or maybe mad sounding chord, depending on the context. If I add a 7th or a 9th or an 11th or a 13th to a minor chord or a major chord, it's not going to change the vibe like crazy. It's really just going to make it feel a little different, feel a different version of happy or a different version of sad. So for example, if I add a 7th here, see, that still feels happy, right? If I add a 9th, it still feels happy. If I add the 13th, it still feels happy because at its core, it's a C major triad, and then I'm just adding the colors on top. So how we want to think about this is our cake, okay? C major is our cake, and this is our vanilla frosting. You know what? Let me add some sprinkles on that. Let me get a strawberry on the side, right? So I still have cake. I'm just having maybe some frosting and sprinkles. I'm gonna leave out the strawberry. Or maybe I want the strawberry with the sprinkles and not the frosting. Okay, so do you see how these colors, they just color up the chord and they give it a little bit more emotion, but they don't change what C is, what C major is. So I could do the same thing with C minor. Okay, so this one's like sad, so it's a little darker, a little more dreary. Okay, so if I add a 7th here, it still feels dark, but a little softer now, a little more feathery, right? Let me add the 9th. It still feels dark, but just a different emotion, okay? Let me add the 11th. It still feels dark, but a little more feathery, but still kind of on that dark and somber vibe, right? Let me add that 13th. Definitely dark, okay? Just a different flavor of dark. Again, so here's my cake. Let's call it, here's my chocolate cake. Let me add some sprinkles. Let me add that strawberry. Let me add some vanilla frosting. Now let me add something else, whatever it may be, right? It doesn't change the fact that it is chocolate cake. All we're doing is decorating. Okay, so I really want to make that clear because everything outside of the basic triad, everything outside of the 1, 3, and the 5 is just decoration, is just literally icing on the cake. So now let's talk about what a 7th chord is. And 7th chords are very important because if we just play triads all day long, music gets a little boring and it sounds a little vanilla. Okay? But as soon as we add some 7ths to the mix, things sound a little bit more soulful. So this is the first step of the decoration, and this is really what I want to talk about. Because once you understand the 7th chords and once you have a solid mastery of the 7th chords, you're literally ahead of 90% of the producers out there because most people don't know this. So how do we get the 7th? Well, it's very simple. You simply add the 7th to the triad, okay? Much like I was doing before. So if I have this C major chord, right? Play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. If I just keep doing that, play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one, I end up with my 7th. okay? And I can do the same thing with the C minor scale, okay? So play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. And again, the sevenths, they give us more emotion, okay? So once we add the seventh, we get some more romance, we get some softness, some tenderness, some smoothness, some loveliness, right? And that's to the major chord. Also, when we add it to the minor chord, it still gives us that, you know, that smoothness and that tenderness. Because for example, if I were just to play, you know, C minor and F minor, like these chords are very dark. That sounds pretty dark, right? But if I add the sevenths to each one of those, makes it a little bit softer, right? So the sevenths, they give you a little bit more color, they give you a little bit more emotion and some softness and tenderness. Every time we're thinking about notes and chords and voicings and all these things, we really want to be thinking about the emotion that it gives us. And that actually brings me perfectly into this next section. What makes chords important? Why is this even important in the first place? We all hear chord progressions in our head and we're like, man, I wish I could play it. But why do we want to play them so bad? Why is harmony such an important piece of the musical puzzle? Well, it's very simple. Harmony is responsible for emotion. If you change the chord progression, you literally change the feeling. Let me show you exactly what I mean. I'm gonna play a chord progression and I'm gonna change one chord. And notice how by just changing the one chord, the entire vibe of what I played changed. Right? Landing on that chord makes me feel kind of happy. It's lovely. Okay. Now, what if I played, instead of F major, F minor? Now it's way different, right? Now I feel something completely different versus landing on this F major chord. So once you change the chord progression, even if you just change one chord, not even the entire progression, you change the feeling that the listener gets when they are listening to your song. So mastering the Songwriters Alphabet, which is what I'm about to teach you, will enable you to express yourself effortlessly without guessing on the keys in your production, whether you're playing in real time, as I am right now, or whether you're writing music and you're putting it together in the DAW. The Songwriters Alphabet. So what exactly is the Songwriters Alphabet? Well, essentially, this is your dictionary of chords, so to speak, that you're gonna be using whenever you write any song. And as a matter of fact, all songs in the history of songs are created using this alphabet. So I'm gonna go ahead and write it down and then I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean. So essentially the proper name for this is the Roman numeral formula, but I like to make things hip and call it the Songwriters Alphabet. So the Songwriters Alphabet and the Roman numeral formula, they are the same exact thing. The reason we use Roman numerals is because it tells us if it's going to be a major chord or a minor chord simply by the number being uppercase or lowercase. So for example, if it's uppercase, this is a 1 chord and it's major. If it's a lowercase, this is a 6 chord and it's minor. So very, very simple. Uppercase equals a major chord, lowercase equals a minor chord. The cool thing about this is that this is going to be the same formula for any key that you're in. So let me go ahead and talk through how this is built, because I think it's very important for us to understand how this is built so we can understand how it functions. So if we're in the key of C, the same key we were talking about before, if I'm in the key of C and I go play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one, look at that. I end up with a C major chord, okay? Now, what we can do is we can build a chord from every single note in this scale. So I can build a chord from C, I can build a chord from the second note, D, I can build a chord from the third note, E, I can build a chord from the fourth note, F, G, A, and B, and then I'm back to C. How do I build a chord from each one of those scale degrees? Well, it's very simple. Play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. And then I can do from D. Play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. Just following the scale. Play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. All the way up, I can continue this process until I get back to C. So what I do here is I end up with a C major chord, and then I end up with a D minor chord, then I end up with an E minor chord, F major, G major, A minor, B B diminished. This is the only one that's a little bit different, okay? So do you see, using the C major scale, I end up with a 1 chord that is major, a 2 chord that is minor, a 3 chord that is minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 minor, 7 diminished, and then back to 1 major. Whenever you've heard people like, oh, let's go to the 4, oh, let's go to the 6, oh, let's take it to the 3, oh, let's go back to the 1, this is exactly what they're talking about. Because if they say, hey, let's go to the 6, well, now I understand that that's A minor. Okay? If they're saying, hey, let's go to the 2, well, now I understand that's D minor. If they're saying, hey, let's go 2, 3, 4, well, now I understand that they mean 2, 3, 4. Really what they're saying is minor 2, minor 3, and major 4. Because that's how it naturally occurs from the scale. You see what I mean? So now when people say, hey, let's play a 4, 5 to the 6, you know exactly what they mean. What they really mean is let's play a 4 major, let's play a 5 major, and let's take it to the 6, which is a 6 minor. So in the key of C, that would be F major, G major, A minor. Does that make sense? We're going to take a look at how this is used in songs in just a second, but I wanted to make very clear that this is the Songwriters Alphabet. So now I can start taking these chords and I can put them together in different ways, and I'm going to come up with really, really great chords. I don't need to play anything outside of the 7 chords that are listed right here to make a banger. And again, we're going to take a look at contextual examples of that in just a second. Now, why is this important? Because any scale that I choose to play in, whether it be D major, F major, whatever it may be, all the chords are going to appear in the same order as they're appearing here. So let's take D major for example. D major has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So whenever I'm thinking about D major, okay, when I'm thinking about this scale, everything else minus the blue notes that are highlighted disappear. So this F, gone from my mind. I'm not even thinking about it. This C, gone from my mind. I'm not even thinking about it. These black keys here, I'm not even thinking about them. Really, all I'm focused on when I'm playing in D major is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. These are my notes. Everything else disappears. So if I go and play one, skip one with D major, here's what I get. Play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. I get a D major chord. Now if I start from the second note, play one, skip one, play one, skip one, play one, I get E minor. And I can do that all the way up. F sharp minor, G major, A major, B minor, C sharp diminished, and now I'm back. Do you see how simple that is? And yes, seeing the pattern in a scale you're unfamiliar with may take you a little bit of getting used to, but when you can think about this blue light pattern that I was talking about before, where you subtract all the other notes from your mind, that would be a great way to practice it. And then going back down, so you can really see these chords. So now I could take those same patterns that I was doing before in C major and do them in D major, and they will sound just as cool, just in a different key. So if I want to do 4, 5, 6, I can see clear as day that it's G major, A major, and B minor. Right? Let's say I want to go 4, 5 to the 3. Well, I can also see clear as day that 4, 5 to the 3 chord is F sharp minor. So, and that's actually time after time. now that I think about it, right? So like, I didn't even plan that. Do you see what I mean? This is the Songwriters Alphabet. All you need to do is start messing with these chords, put them together in different ways, and you create amazing songs. So again, you can plug any scale into this. And once you have this, even just a few keys, even if you don't master this in all 12 keys, which I highly recommend you do, but even if you just have this in a few keys, do you see how much ammo you will have in your producer arsenal by being able to put together these different chords and these different progressions very, very easily? And now when people say, hey, let's do 1 to the 4, you know exactly what they mean. Now, let's take this one step further and add the sevenths to this Songwriters Alphabet, because this is when things start to get really, really interesting. So what we've taken a look at so far is just kind of the triads all the way up, right? And there's nothing wrong with triads all the way up. We can create some really, really great music and some really, really great emotions with just triads, especially those who love R&B and soulful music. The basic level of that music is the 7th chords. So really being able to understand the 7th chords, if you like R&B and soulful music, is really the starting ground, is really should be the baseline for being able to understand even some of the more advanced stuff that they do. So the same process that we took for the triads, building a chord off each scale degree, stacking them like pancakes, right? Play one, skip one. I'll just add the 7th chord to that, and then we're gonna get specific chord qualities. First chord is a major 7 chord. The second chord I see is a minor 7. The 3 chord is a minor 7. The 4 chord is a major 7. The 5 chord is our special guy. The 5 chord is our dominant 7. The dominant 7 chord is the most wonderful chord in history because it gives us beautiful tension to really, really great release. And that's a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but understand that the 5 chord is a dominant 7 chord. By itself, this chord may sound a little funky. That's too low. But when we resolve it, that's really when that chord shines. Okay, so just know that. 6th chord is a minor 7. And our 7th, it becomes half diminished, okay? So that's another one that we don't see too often, okay? But that's what we have there. So adding the 7ths to each one of these chords gives us these qualities. So now instead of a basic triad, I can start adding some of these 7ths to it. And it gives it a slightly different color. In terms of the voicing that I'm using to play some of these chords, it's a little bit beyond the scope of this video. However, primarily when I'm using 7s, when I'm using 9s, and especially 11s and 13s, I'm using what's called the grip system, the grip formula, because it takes the voicings for these chords, it takes the theory out of your mind, and it makes it very easy to execute and just get some rich, nice and buttery sounds, without me having to get lost in all the 7s, the 9s, the 11s, and the 13s. If you want a free training on the grip system so you can really take this and use it in your productions, go ahead and click the link in the description below. I have a free 60-minute masterclass that is absolutely valuable. It's changed so many producers' lives, and I know it will do the same for you. So go ahead and click that if you want to learn more about the grips. So again, I can do the same thing in D major, I can do the same thing in F major, all of that type of stuff. But the main point being is that in any single one of those scales, the 1 will always be major, 2 will always be minor 7, 3 will always be minor 7, 4 will always be major 7, the 5 will always be dominant, the 6 will always be minor, and the 7 will always be half diminished. This is so important for you to really understand in your mind, and you're gonna see exactly what I mean by these contextual examples that we're gonna take a look at right now. So the first song that I wanna look at is Brian McKnight's Back at One. Brian McKnight is one of my favorite artists of all time, and Back at One is probably his most popular song. And the chorus to this song has a very, very simple progression that follows the Roman numeral formula, that follows the Songwriters Alphabet, really to a T. It doesn't change anything about it. And so that chord progression is 1, 6, 4, 5. So 1 chord, the 6 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord. And being that we already know that they come in this certain order, we have C major, A minor, F major, G major. Now this song is in the key of B. I'm moving it up a half step so we can do it in C and we can see it very easily here. So we have the 1 chord. Feel like a dream come true. Just wanna be with you. 'Cause it's plain to see that you're the only one. Now I made the G chord a sus chord, just because it sounds cool like that, but you see it's still a 5 chord. Now, I want you to notice something. I'm playing everything in root position just to make it very, very simple for you right now. But I want you to notice that when I play it just with basic triads, and then I'll do a pass of adding the 7th chords and starting to add the colors, you'll notice that it still feels the same, but this one just feels a little bit extra fancy, and it feels like there's more emotion to this. I'm not changing the chords. All I'm doing is adding decoration. So I'm gonna do the chorus twice in a row, and the first time I do it, it's just gonna be in regular triads, okay? No 7s, no 9s, no nothing. And then the next time I do it, I'm just gonna start adding some of the colors, and notice the difference in the chord progression. I'm gonna leave the bass notes exactly the same so we can really hear that strong bass motion. That's super, super important to be able to sing the bass line, to be able to hear what the bass is doing, because the bass is basically telling us 1, 6, 4, 5. That's what the bass is telling us. Like, these are the chords that we're playing. So if we just listen to the bass is gonna be telling us what chords we're playing. And then we can choose to add whatever decorations we want on top. So let's see what it sounds like, triads versus with the colors. Now that you've been blessed with my beautiful voice, you can see how the first one sounded cool, it sounded fine, but then the second one just had some more flavor to it because we were adding these 7s, 9s, 11s. But notice that I didn't change the chords. All I did was say C major 7, A minor 11 I think I played, probably F major 9, and then G 13 sus, which is one of my favorite chords. I'm not thinking about the 13 sus or the 9 or what the 11 is. I'm really just thinking about the grips and think about the grip system. And so that's the kind of sound that grips allow you to get. So if that's the kind of sound you want, definitely go ahead and click the link in the description right after watching this video so you can watch the free grips masterclass. Life-changing. So do you see how this song literally just follows that formula, right? And if I were to do it in the key of B, which it is, notice how the chord qualities stay exactly the same. It's just the note that changes. So add some colors here. Beautiful, love it. Now let's take a look at Just the Way You Are by Bruno Mars. And I picked this song because it's a very simple song. It's actually only 3 chords during the verse. But this is another one where we can see very dramatically how if we just played the triads versus adding some of the 7s and adding some of the other decorations really influences the emotional impact that you receive as a listener listening to the song. This song is in the key of F major, and I'm gonna stay in the key of F major because it's important for us to be able to play not just in the key of C, but to be able to play in other keys as well. So written down here is our Roman numeral formula in the key of F. So we have F major 7, G minor 7, A minor 7, B flat, C7, D minor 7, E, and then back up to the top. So the chord progression for this song, again, it's only 3 chords for the verse, and it's very, very simple. It's the 1 chord, the 6th chord, and the 4 chord. So if we line that up with the Songwriters Alphabet, we have the 1 chord, the 6th chord, and the 4 chord. We have F major 7, D minor 7, B flat major 7. So what's really important here is that we understand this bass line. I can't stress the importance of understanding the bass line, because once we understand, once we're able to sing those notes, we're really what we're hearing in our head is 1, 6, 4, right? And if it said 4, 3, 2, like we would know that that's what it's doing. 4, 3, 2. Oh, 4, 3, 2 in the key of F, we could see right here is B flat, A, G minor. I can't sing that G, it's a little too low for my voice. But you understand the point. Once we understand what the bass is doing and we're able to identify what the bass is doing by ear, then we just plug that straight into the Roman numeral formula and we're like, oh, 1 chord, major. Oh, 6 chord, minor. Oh, 4 chord, major. Oh, 4, 3, 2? I know what that is. So let's get back to the song. If we were to just play it in triads. Oh, it actually goes back to the F. Sorry about that. But what if we add the colors? You see how cool that sounds when we start adding the colors? So we start adding the nines and things like this. It just gives an extra level of emotion to the song. And again, the way I'm playing those voicings is literally just using the grip system straight up. So if you like how that sounds and you want to sound like that as well, go ahead and click the link in the description. Free grips masterclass. Absolutely awesome. Do you see how this literally just follows the formula? Like, we're not doing anything different than what's written on here. The only thing that we're doing is adding colors or not. But you see, it doesn't change the function of the actual chord. Now, I'm gonna keep the bass exactly the same just so we can really hear that root note moving downwards when we do it the triads versus the 7th chords. Because I know sometimes when I got to the other stuff, I started playing different things in my left hand. I apologize for that. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna keep the root note so we can really hear the basic triad moving, even though, you know, yes, I'm playing octaves here, but we can really hear just the motion of the chords themselves, the core of the chord, and then how when we add the decorations on top, it doesn't change the core function of the chord. It just makes it feel a little bit different, but not like we're not changing the chords. We're just adding some sprinkles. We're adding some vanilla frosting. We're adding some strawberries to the cake, but we're still having a cake. So let's start with triads. You see, just by adding some colors and maybe moving them around a little bit, like each color gives you a different emotion. That's what's so beautiful about using the colors. But notice that the bass didn't change. It was still the same exact notes. So that's what's really, really important about this Roman numeral formula. So here's what we've gone over today. We've gone over what is a chord and how a chord is literally just 3 notes. It's the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th. The way that we can find that is playing the scale and just say play 1, skip 1, play 1, skip 1. We then learned a 7th chord is really just a decoration on the basic triad, and what they do is they give you a little bit extra emotion, right? They give you some romance, they give you some tenderness, they give you some lovely, smooth sounding softness. We also learned what makes chords important and why harmony is responsible for the emotion. And we took a look at how we can manipulate the emotion just by changing a chord or two. And even how we can manipulate the emotion by adding or removing the color tones, adding or removing those 7s, the 9s, the 11s, and the 13s. And we learned the Songwriters Alphabet. Now, if you take nothing away from this video, this is what I want you to take away from it. Memorize this guy. You remember where a kid curses in elementary school and then he writes down 50 times on the board, I will not curse again. I will not curse again. I will not curse again. And he fills up the whole blackboard with that. He has to write it like 50 times over. What I highly recommend that you do is that you memorize this guy like it's the back of your hand, like it's as easy as speaking. Because I know a lot of guys who don't know a lot of theory. They don't even know a lot of scales, but they know this Songwriters Alphabet. They know this producer's alphabet, this Roman numeral formula, and they're able to put together chord progressions really easily. And because they're able to put together chord progressions, they're able to put together songs really easily that allow them to express the way that they're feeling through music. And that's the ultimate goal, right? If you want to be a go-getter, write this down 50 times on a sheet of paper, repeat it to yourself out loud, make the car your classroom while you're in the shower. 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7. Visualize it on the piano as you're playing. And you can take some of these practices that we were doing. Right? In C major, it's really easy, but try it in different keys. Try it in E flat major. Right? Keys you're uncomfortable with. because that's how you're gonna get better, right? See how you can really get that down. And once we got that down, you can start learning some songs, okay? And we saw how this was exemplified in Back at 1, with and without the colors, and Just the Way You Are, with and without the colors. Just literally using the chords from the Songwriters Alphabet. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you want to learn more about the grip system, go ahead and click the link below. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, and I will see you on the next one. My name is BruceBeats. Peace.